Welcome to Keystones to Opportunity Professional Development, session number 6, the Literacy Design Collaborative. Given the expectations for students graduating from Pennsylvania schools in the 21st century and the need for all students to be career and college ready at the end of grade 12, educators will need to rethink the ways by which they approach literacy instruction at all levels, including early learning for students ages birth through 5 years of age. Pittsburgh Public Schools received a $10 million grant over the course of the next 5 years. The funding from this grant supports a new literacy plan for the district, monthly PD sessions tailored to the needs of our district, new diagnostic assessments, including dibbles and grades, and literacy specialists who provide RTII support, data analysis, PD, instruction, and Common Core state standard supports in all of Pittsburgh Public Schools. And finally, it includes heat classroom observations for targeted grades. A review of the 2010-2011 state-level reading PSSA results illustrated the importance of developing a comprehensive, coherent, and well-articulated literacy plan that can provide the directions for successful literacy instruction in the 21st century schools. Pittsburgh Public Schools is modeling our CLP, Comprehensive Literacy Plan, after the state's plan. Specifically, the plan identifies important content, processes, and resources that will enable all stakeholders, parents, caretakers, educators, and community members to plan, develop, and evaluate instructional programs that support equitable and high-quality literacy instruction for all students. Content supervisors and KtO literacy specialists have been in the process of creating this plan throughout the school year, taking into consideration what is learned through the 9 professional development sessions funded under the grant. So far, these professional development opportunities have been provided by KtO through the AIU. These sessions are not only meant to improve practice as we transition into Common Core state standards, but they also serve as the awareness of what is happening behind the scenes as content supervisors and KtO specialists create the district's new literacy plan. Anything learned in these sessions can be applied immediately. Today we will be focusing on session number 6, the Literacy Design Collaborative, or LDC for short. LDC offers a fresh approach to incorporating literacy into middle and high school content areas. Designed to make literacy instruction the foundation of the core subjects, LDC allows teachers to build content on top of a coherent approach to literacy. This is drastically different than past, less structured notions of adding reading and writing when possible to the teaching of content. The Literacy Design Collaborative is a practical, effective vehicle to implement the Common Core state standards and increase college and career readiness at the middle and secondary levels. This introduction to the LDC provides teachers with common tools to develop, implement, and assess high-quality assignments, which integrate literacy and content standards in a rigorous, authentic classroom experience across subjective areas and courses. Let's take a moment to review the objectives for this session. Participants will be able to identify the components of the LDC framework, articulate the relationship among the PA Comprehensive Literacy Plan, the Common Core State Standards, and LDC, identify tools that can be used to develop LDC tasks for use in their discipline, and link student work scoring to the LDC analytic rubric. So let's dive right in. The writers of the Common Core state standards were careful to only create the standards and let the local school districts determine the curriculum. The standards are our blueprint. We must build the house, and LDC offers one way to do this. The Common Core state standards provides a consistent, clear understanding of what students are expected to learn. The standards are designed to be robust and relevant to the real world, reflecting the knowledge and skills that our young people need for success in college and career. All teachers are teachers of literacy for their content. Reading science literature is much different than reading history or other prose. Each content teacher understands the literacy for their discipline. Common Core state standards encourages content teachers to instruct students in how to be literate in that content. Unlike math, secondary literacy is not a discipline. It is homeless in that it belongs to everyone and to no one. Since most of the states have adopted Common Core state standards, it has allowed educators to collaborate extensively. Achieve the Core, corestandards.org are examples of that. Professors, researchers, teachers, curriculum writers can create quality work together. The LDC is one project that has come about through this rich cooperation. And so now we need to move from the blueprint to action. The Literacy Design Collaborative began with a group of secondary educators considering how content teachers address literacy. Typically, the approach has been to read and write across the content. The problem was that at times it felt like a competing partnership, and LDC attempts to create literacy tasks that require deep content knowledge. So the fact is that teachers don't have to move from the Common Core State Standards blueprint to action alone. They have the support with things like LDC. At this time, we're going to watch a short video clip that further explains the Literacy Design Collaborative.
Weekend is my analysis.
Grammar is usually my biggest problem.
Sometimes it's like I miss some points that I'm supposed to get.
The Literacy Design Collaborative is a framework that puts literacy first.
I teach 10th grade global history and geography, and we are studying the Industrial Revolution of Great Britain. So I created an LDC module that'll be done over about 3 weeks. When a teacher's writing one of these LDC modules, there's 4 things that they need to keep in mind. The first is, what is the task that you want your students to complete?
LDC provides a pretty clear framework. There's a bank of templates there: narrative, informational explanatory, and argumentative, and those 3 things match the Common Core standards. And so they will lay into that template and make it their instructional task what it is that the students will be answering in terms of a question. The part that's really significant, of course, for the teacher is that they select content, an issue that is really significant to their discipline and their course even.
The task my students will do is to write an argumentative essay around the question, do the achievements and growth of the Industrial Revolution outweigh the cost to society? The second thing is, what skills do your students need? And that's where it becomes an individual process. What do your students need to improve on throughout the year?
If I can teach them those skills within the context of an LDC module, then I can actually be giving them text in the future, and they can do it independently, which is the core of the new standards.
The third thing is, how are you going to design your instruction? What mini tasks are you going to create to scaffold those skills? And then finally, what are your expectations? What do you want out of this?
The key result is when you see that paper, when you see that sample of student writing and compare it and assess it based on the rubric and providing feedback to that student. Did this student demonstrate the literacy skills that I had planned at the beginning of my module?
I gave them the research packets and the Cornell note sheet so that for every reading that they go through, they're already keeping the task question in mind. The purpose of adding the benefits and the disadvantages to this note sheet is because that's the whole purpose of this task. As I looked around the room, as I listened to them, I think that they were doing the reading and extracting from a text. That's an important skill. What would you guys put as the notes here?
Working on dangerous machines. Most of the people that worked in the factories were women and children.
Did you find any benefits yet?
It says that they earn more in factories than they did on the farm.
Okay. They're still earning more in factories.
It's helpful because you wrote all the notes down, all the facts that you learned.
I asked them to make a teacher explaining the benefits and the costs that they have identified so far in the readings from the Industrial Revolution. And each group had full lists on both sides.
What's a positive?
Since there were so many employees, it helped the economy and the businesses grow.
Disease spread because there's a lot of people living in the tenements.
They proved to me that they had learned a lot, that they were able to discuss these issues, the good and the bad.
The children is
I
younger
write
than 14.
when I heard classmates speak, it gave me a better idea of what I'm gonna write about. 2 hours a day, that's not enough.
But they were lucky to have education because the government financed it for them.
But was the education enough for their future?
The conversation just kept growing and growing, and questions were being asked, and people were disagreeing with one another, and the conversation itself is another skill.
One house full of 20 families sharing one bathroom.
The students in groups had been given various members of industrial society. Their task was to take a series of questions, like how did the industrial era affect your life? And they prepared answers as those individuals.
I'm over here working in factories all day, only bread and butter, and we only have 1 hour of break.
If I was a textile workers, I would have rebelled against the textile owners.
The bridging conversation piece is so important because it was supposed to allow students to hear and to discuss the benefits and the costs.
If they want to quit, they could quit. That's where we come in, the union leaders. What if we were subjected to child labor and absolutely no education as teenagers today? What if we were working long hours, beaten every minute, and paid little to no money?
We've been working on our introductions, our hook, and really establishing what is their claim to that essential question. Did the costs outweigh the benefits, or did the benefits outweigh the costs?
You had a really great hook, and you said, you know, as teenagers today, could we have gone through this? But then make it clear again, the benefits did not outweigh the costs, or the costs outweighed the benefits.
If the lead isn't right, if the claim isn't right, what you have is students investing time and many times lots of work into something that has no foundation and just falls apart. What LDC provides are those markers, those steps, those stop and consider portions.
Whatever you put here, this is your first body paragraph topic. Whatever you put in the middle one, that should be your second body paragraph topic.
My hope and my expectation is that they produce solid body paragraphs that include analysis and this evidence.
What all literate folks have to do, and just to navigate, it's that sort of, well, what do others think? What do I think? What is the evidence for how I think? And then how do I report that and communicate it in a way that's effective?
Considering the competing view. That could be a political issue that they're talking about, a current event that they're talking about. You don't have to agree with it, but at least to know what they're saying. And that, to me, is one of the most important skills.
A little pulley right there.
Yeah, you're right. It could obviously harm people.
They had to provide reasons for the counterclaims, but then they had to refute the comments. So you basically have to say, sure, that's true, however, and then go back to your claim that's saying it's still not worth the cost to society.
In the essay, we are supposed to be talking about the opposing view as well. So I'm not just going to say that the idea of them is disgusting. I'm going to say it also makes sense.
Yes. They are going to exchange drafts of the introduction, the body paragraphs, and the competing views.
Where is your claim? What's the introduction? I guess you have a hook, but you don't really have a background information. I know what side you're fighting for, but you know.
I forgot to put that in.
Oops, okay, let's take that off. Where is it? No claim. Shane Muhammad.
I was really, really pleased with their peer editing skills. And I saw students saving each other's grades a little bit by saying, oh, this is missing or this doesn't match. So I feel like that skill has improved.
I'm so used to you grading our papers, and it's like grading his paper is, I just feel like I'm a teacher now.
LDC, when the task is right and the mini tasks are right and the structure is right, does the kind of thing that we've wanted to happen in all classes, but especially social studies, science, and English classes. And that is students move through a process toward sifting the information and then toward using the information to support their own assertion.
This is a new learning experience for me, and it's obviously a new learning experience for them. It's putting more accountability on the students to take pride in their own learning.
You get to understand the process and how to write a good essay. You know the steps to follow, and you know if you're on the right track.
It's been a great process, and it's challenging and it's time consuming, but the results are really amazing and fulfilling as a teacher.
At this time, you might wish to pause this recording and discuss these questions. The LDC model focuses on this framework. What is the task? What skills are required to accomplish this task? What instruction is required, both in content and process? What results are expected? So what about content? The template tasks are ready for whatever content a teacher wants to use with them. Teachers from some of the pilot sites recommend that teachers play around with the standards and their content. One suggested that the first step in using this strategy is to select a topic that is engaging and exciting to students, take a standard and plug it into different tasks, tie it into the learning targets, and triage the literacy skills that are most needed to get to an endpoint in 3 weeks or whatever the time the teacher has allotted for this task. If you plan this instruction right, according to an Oregon history teacher who pioneered the LDC strategy, you do not take time away from your content. In the end, the students will learn the content better than if they had not worked on their literacy skills at all. In addition, templates are available on the LDC website, so teachers don't need to come up with tools on their own. The tasks have already been created for the teachers in a way that requires content and literacy knowledge to complement one another. These tasks work with almost any content the teacher selects. There are 3 types of tasks: argumentation, analysis, explanatory, narrative, which mirror the 3 types of writing found in the Common Core State Standards. The template allows the classroom teacher to determine the content. Here's an example of a template, and the next slide will show how a teacher completed the template. We can see how a teacher determined the content and the product for this task. The L2 and L3 refers to the level of difficulty. A teacher could choose to assign L2 and L3 to the entire class or differentiate the assignment. Here's an example of how a science teacher used the template to determine the task. This slide shows how all the parts work together. It also shows how LDC tasks are backmapped from the standards. First, the teacher chooses their template task. Then they select the topic. They select texts that address their topic and support the template task. Then teachers determine what type of text students will write to show their understanding. And finally, they create their teaching task. Now that we have the results, we must determine if the students have met the standards and criteria set forth in the teaching task. LDC has created a set of rubrics that complement the 3 different types of writing. The next several slides show examples of those rubrics. Here's the rubric for the argumentation analysis task, the rubric for informational or explanatory tasks, and finally the rubric for narrative tasks. As we conclude this professional development session, Literacy Design Collaborative, you might want to take a moment to share with your colleagues any comments or questions or concerns. Additional resources can be found by going to the Literacy Design Collaborative website. Thank you very much.